And then the second thing that I want to do is acknowledge we have a very active chat today. All right, hold on just 1 second. So we'll start with Corrido, who said, I think the Lakers and Warriors are going to be good this year. I see them getting past the first round. And I have no idea if that's going to be exactly what's going to happen, but I mean, I wouldn't count out Steph Curry or LeBron James either. And depending on how things work, considering like they're both going to be heavy on the three-point shot, and it's like you live by the three and you die by the three. So we really we have to see exactly how well their teams can shoot the three ball. And next we have shots below the belt. Popovich knew Leonard's physical capabilities. The system was perfect. Right, but again, like, I mean, if Kawhi Leonard would have stayed on the Spurs, then how do we know if he would have even won another championship? Because you could argue that move, leaving the Spurs to go to Toronto, benefited his legacy. And towards the end, obviously, I mean, like, when his time on the Clippers is just a complete failure, I totally understand that. But it's not like Kawhi Leonard is he actively wants to play. It doesn't seem like that, at least. So I don't really know if you can really get angry at Kawhi Leonard with that. But again, I do understand your point on thinking that he does have an ego. Just because he's quiet doesn't mean that he's humble. Diggs, how's it going? He just wanted to say what's up. And then Corrido, once again in the chat, said this is going to be one heck of a Western Conference this year. Now with Warriors, Kings, and Lakers look like they finally got back to form. Not entirely sure exactly how the Kings are going to play, but they do have some of the most underrated players in the NBA right now, so anything is possible. Andre is also in the chat saying Kawhi is cursed. He's finessing the Clippers. That Toronto team with Kawhi is criminally underrated. I mean, yes, they are criminally underrated, but we all know that Raptors team wasn't going to win the finals if Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson had not gotten hurt. And shots below the belt again said he was the prodigy, the future of the Spurs. They were going to build a team around him. Yeah, well, Kawhi didn't want to wait. And he didn't really need to wait because there was already a championship-ready team with the Toronto Raptors. And boom, he got it. And, I mean, his time with the Clippers, again, it's just been seen as a failure. But that one season if anything, if you're going to blame Kawhi Leonard for anything, it shouldn't be for him leaving the Spurs, but for him not staying another year with the Toronto Raptors. I feel like that should be something that Kawhi Leonard gets blamed for. Not necessarily for leaving the Spurs, because, I mean, he left, but then he ended up winning a championship. You could make the argument that the Raptors could have even repeated again, considering how Kevin Durant eventually left towards again. So, you never know. But yes, I mean, Kawhi Leonard, he decided to leave the Raptors, then he went over to the Clippers, made commercials bragging about how LA was his city. So I do understand the thought process on you thinking that he might have an ego, because that's not necessarily untrue. Again, we don't know that. But aside from that, let's continue with this ESPN list. I literally spent so much time talking about Kawhi Leonard that I couldn't even get through this list. So we left off at, I believe, 24 or 25. I'm not entirely sure. But directly under Damian Lillard, which was 23, was Paolo Banchero. And directly after that was Kyrie Irving at number 25. I don't really got a problem with that. I think that Kyrie Irving is a fantastic player. He's definitely better than the previous year that he was playing basketball. So I have no problem with him moving up all the way to 25. Same with Paolo Banchero. I think he's one of the more underrated players in the NBA as well. Same thing with number 26, which is where we start up this list, which is De'Aaron Fox. And to be fair, I think De'Aaron Fox is probably one of the most underrated point guards in the entire NBA. Like, nobody really talks about how good he is until he's, like, in the postseason. And he really only had that 1 year with the Kings when he was the third seed, and then Steph Curry just said bye-bye. Or night-night, I guess you could say. Whatever keens your Steph Curry interest. And De'Aaron Fox, like, he's very underrated alongside with his teammate, and Domantas Sabonis. So him being ranked at number 26 behind Damian Lillard, I'm not entirely sure. Like, I don't really know if I would put De'Aaron Fox, at least, considering how De'Aaron Fox played last season, I really don't think I'd put Damian Lillard over De'Aaron Fox, just based off of the production and play last season. Same thing with Kyrie Irving. I actually think Kyrie Irving played a lot better than Damian Lillard did throughout the season. So I'm very surprised that either one of those point guards are ranked higher than Dame. Like, I don't have a problem exactly with the spot that they're at, but I do have a problem with the spot where Damian Lillard is at. And even Kawhi Leonard, who's ranked higher than him, but that's a completely different argument. Next player on this list is Zion Williamson. He was ranked 57th in the previous season, and now he jumps all the way up to 27. And he played a career-high 70 games, averaging 22 points, 5 rebounds, as New Orleans advanced to its second postseason during his tenure. So even though I will say that they ended up making the playoffs without him, but aside from that, I really want Zion to succeed. Aside from LeBron and Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's one of the best finishers around the basket that I've ever seen. And even in the play-in matchup against the Lakers, he was incredibly clutch. I believe he dropped 40 points in that play-in matchup. He is a very solid player, and he's definitely one of the fewer players that actually uses his size to his advantage and can bully a lot of the bigger players in today's game. He's also a pretty solid offensive rebound, and again, just an overall solid rebound. Now I know that, his stats, they don't really seem like he's a dominant rebounder, because he's not, but he's a solid rebounder. That I think is something to write home about. And not to mention, that production, 22 points per game, it's not all that, but I do expect his production to slightly increase with the Pelicans, and especially if Brandon Ingram gets traded, because we still have no idea if Brandon Ingram's going to get traded. However, having Jimmy Butler ranked at 28th, I'm not entirely sure about. I don't really think that having Jimmy Butler better than Zion Williamson is accurate or even worth mentioning. Because this, I don't know. I know I'm not a big fan of playoff Jimmy Butler, and I do think that playoff Jimmy Butler is a little bit overrated. But Jimmy Butler takes his team far in the postseason. And he is arguably one of the big reasons why his team goes that far in the postseason. So having him under Zion Williamson, somebody who is unable to stay healthy, somebody who's unable to really lead his team far in the postseason, I don't really think that's entirely fair. Maybe it's because the Eastern Conference is relatively simple, and maybe it's because Jimmy Butler doesn't really seem to take the regular season seriously. That I could somewhat understand, but at the end of the day, I don't think Jimmy Butler should be ranked anywhere lower than Zion Williamson, or even, honestly, that's really about it. Zion and maybe even Damian Lillard, at least, given this previous season, he should not be ranked lower than Zion. So maybe flip-flop between the two of them. Don't really agree with that whatsoever. Now let me just go ahead and look at the time. All right, so we're well past this second segment. So now we're going to go into an ad break, and then we're going to go ahead and continue with this list right after that break. So be sure to stay tuned if you guys are interested in the rest of this list.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.